Excellent. You okay? Excellent. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على سبيله إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So in continuing from Tafseer suratun-nisaa, we're on ayah number 20. نعم وقفنا في هذه الآية. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions after أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإن أردتم استبدال زوج مكان زوج وآتيتم إحداهن قنطارا فلا تأخذوا منه شيئا أتأخذونه بهتانا وإثما مبينا. Allah mentions if you want to replace one wife with another and you have given one of them a great amount in gifts, i.e. in the mahar, then do not take back from it anything. Would you take it back in injustice and manifest sin? This is referring to someone, for example, who has married 4 wives and you're not able to get married again. Right? In balaght al-hadd, you have reached the limit, al-mashru'. So if a person then wants to say, I don't want to be married to this person anymore, they want to marry someone else, of the things that they would do out of dhulm fil jahiliyyah, they may take back from the mahar what they've given to one and give it to the one that they want to marry now. وَهَذَا ظُلْمٌ وَإِثْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. This is a great oppression and sin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala جعل المهر كالمقابلة بالبضع or البضع. It's like an exchange for that marital intimacy. So this is not something to be taken lightly. Allah further mentions وَكَيْفَ تَأْخُذُونَهُ وَقَدْ أَفْضَى بَعْضُكُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْكُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. How can you take it back? هذا السؤال استنكاري وتوبيخ. This is a rhetorical question as a means of reprimand. Now, how could you take it back? Like in your right frame of mind, how could you do such a thing? From what angle could you justify taking it back? وَقَدْ أَفْضَى بَعْضُكُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ. You've had that intimacy, بِالْجِمَاعِ, with that marital intimacy. وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْكُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. And you have taken them with what? A strong covenant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لأن الله تعالى أمر بإمساكهن بالمعروف أو تسريحهن بالمعروف. Because Allah has commanded that one is to keep them upon goodness or let them go upon goodness. هذا أمر الله. This is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not a thing of desires. No, but I want this one. I don't want that one anymore. I'm tired of this one. I'm bored of this one. لا. هذا أمر دين. This is a matter of the religion. Now, also the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, وَاسْتَوْصُوا بِالنِّسَاءِ خَيْرًا فَإِنَّكُمْ أَخَذْتُمُوهُنَّ بِأَمَانَةِ اللَّهِ وَاسْتَحْلَلْتُمْ فُرُوجَهُنَّ بِكَلِمَةِ اللَّهِ. Allah mentioned, the Prophet mentioned in his hadith, alayhi salatu wasalam, that I advise you with goodness towards the women, for indeed you had taken them with a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being married is a trust. You've been entrusted with that wife of yours. Naam. And you have permitted their private parts with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is not something to be taken lightly. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا مَا نَكَحَ آبَاؤُكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and do not marry those whom your forefathers have married. أي في الجاهلية كان الابن يتزوج بطليقة الأب. In the days prior to Islam, the son would marry the divorced wife of his father. That's not his mum, obviously. Now, وهذا لا يحل بمجرد العقد النكاح لا يحل نكاح الابن بزوجة الأب. Even just by a contract, without jima', say mujma' alayhi, is agreed upon, it's not permissible for the son to marry the one that the father married, even if there was no consummation. لا يجوز. This is not to be done. إلا ما قد سلف. And here Allah says إلا ما قد سلف, meaning prior to that which has happened before this command came from Allah has been forgiven. Because there were those who that was their situation. They were married to the divorcee of their father. So when Allah says إلا ما قد سلف, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has excused that which had happened prior to the revelation of this hukum, this ruling. ولهذا قال الله تعالى إنه كان فاحشة ومقتا وساء سبيلا. Allah mentions that إنه كان فاحشة, أي نكاح زوجة الأب بعده كان أمرا قبيحا جدا. Marrying the divorcee of her father is of the most despised and detested actions. ومقتا أي أشد البغض, of the most hated things to be done. وساء سبيلا أي بئس هذا السبيل, a wretched path to take. وهذه الصفات ثلاث تدل على أنه أشد المحرمات وأقبحها. These characteristics that have been mentioned regarding marrying the divorcee of one's father suffices to know that this is of the worst of the prohibitions, the most evil of actions that a person can fall into. Now, to the point of the things that was mentioned, عن البراء ابن عازب قال مر بأمي الحارث ابن عمير. He said, my uncle passed by me, حارث ابن عمير ومعه لواء قد عقده له النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he had like a notice that the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم had given him as a contract, assigned to him. فقلت أي أمي يعني oh my uncle, أين بعثك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, where has the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم sent you? قال بعثني إلى رجل تزوج امرأة أبيه فأمرني أن أضرب عنقه. He said, he has sent me to a man who has married the wife, the divorcee of his father. So he has sent me to behead him. Why? Because هذا يعتبر الردة. This was considered to be apostasy. To fall into this, يعتبر ردة. نعم, of the things mentioned, من فعل هذا فقد ارتد عن دينه. The one who had done this has apostated from Islam after the ruling had come down that it wasn't permitted. And that is because هو استحلال ما حرم الله, because you are making lawful that which Allah has made unlawful. وهذا كفر أكبر. Allah then mentions حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم, those who have been prohibited upon you, your mothers. وهذا تشمل الجدات, that also includes the grandparents, the grandmothers. نعم, من الأب والأم, from both the mother's side and the father's side. وبناتكم, and your daughters. وهذا تشمل بنات البنات, your granddaughters and down. وأخواتكم من جهة الأب والأم, and also your brothers and sisters from both sides, the mother's side or the father's side. وعماتكم أي أخوات آبائكم وأجدادكم, أي your aunties from your father's side and your mother's side. خالاتكم is your mother's side. So your uncles and aunties from either your mother's and your father's side and your grandparents' side. like your great uncle and auntie. لا يحل الزواج بهن. It's not permissible to marry them. وبنات الأخ وبنات الأخت, يعني your nieces and nephews. يعني وأمهاتكم اللاتي أرضعنكم, أي also your mothers from wet nursing, those who wet nursed you. نعم. وأخواتكم من الرضاعة, and also your sisters from wet nursing. So your siblings by way of wet nursing is not permitted to be married. You have cases, subhanallah, they didn't know. Imagine being married for years, number of children, you find out that this is from your sister from rida'a. Your sister that is from someone who shared the same wetness. فسخ nikah. This nikah is annulled. لا يجوز شرعا. In case that this happened, you see, and that's why this is of the things that was given due attention. It was known who is the wet nurse and who have they wet nursed. So if a person does do it, you have to make sure that is recorded, that is known and preserved. Because when it comes to seeking nikah, you have to make sure يعني ترتفع الموانع, you relieve the obstacles. That this is someone who is halal for you to marry. Then he mentions وَأُمَّهَاتُ نِسَائِكُمْ وَرَبَائِبُكُمْ, and also the mothers of your wives, and also your stepdaughters, i.e. the daughters of your wife. It's not permissible to marry these individuals. وَاللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُمْ مِنْ نِسَائِكُمُ اللَّاتِي دخلتم بهن فإن لم تكونوا دخلتم بهن فلا جناح عليكم. Of the things that is mentioned here, you're not allowed to marry the stepdaughters of your wives unless you have not consummated the marriage. If the marriage is not consummated prior to divorce, then there is no sin upon you in doing so. Also, the wives of your sons are not lawful. Now, the wives of your sons are also not permitted. Now, so the wives of your sons are not permitted. Min aslabikum, that are from your loins, that are from you. وأن تجمعوا بين الأختين إلا ما قد سلف, and also that you have two sisters at the same time, now, except for that which had preceded. Now, let me speak about this shortly. So I mentioned here a situation that Fayruz al-Daylami radiallahu anhu, أو عن الضحاك ابن فيروز الديلمي رضي الله عنه عفوا قال يا رسول الله إن تحتي أختين, I have under me two sisters, I am married to two sisters, they're sisters. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم طلق أيهما شئت, divorce either of them that you will. Why? إن الله كان غفورا رحيما, there's not going to be anything upon you now. However, you cannot continue the rulings of Jahiliyyah when now we have the rulings of Islam. So you have to act upon the laws of Islam. So now that this has come, that this is prohibited to be done, choose which of them you will keep and which one you will let go for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as you can see, Allah musta'an, in the time of the Sahaba, their desires were tested a lot. Because as for us who have come later, the Sharia has already been clarified for us. We already know what we can and cannot do. But some of the things that they learned that they can and cannot do was being practiced, and they had to make instant changes. You had those who had more than 4 wives. And again, they would have to choose. So there will be those who are married who now become not married. And the likes. But this is the virtue of the Sahaba. You don't hear anything of the Sahaba of them complaining. Say, why? This is not fair. La. And Islamuhum wa imanuhum kana kamilan. Because their Islam and the Iman was complete. يعني آثروا ما شرع الله على شهواتهم وأنفسهم. They gave preference and preferred that which Allah had legislated over their own selves. And that's a lesson to be learned. For many times, we struggle to accept that which Allah has legislated because it does not conform to our desires. Does not agree with that which we desire. So we reject it. Or we find an excuse not to act upon it. Or we speak ill of it. And the likes. All of these ways of jahiliyyah, that a person is to be cautious. And safeguard himself from maybe saying something that may be considered kufr. Unfortunately, today we're in a time when too many people want to become famous. And they want to become famous by talking about controversial issues. Everyone's got something to say. I always say everyone's become a journalist now. Everyone's a professional journalist. You know, everyone's trying to sell a story and attract people to their page, get a better following. هذا مصيبة. This is a great calamity. Especially sisters online always talking about controversial issues. And what you find, unfortunately, when they speak about these issues, it's filled with too much emotion. Not wisdom, but emotion. Or they feel like because men are not talking about it, they have to speak about it. Maybe it is being spoken about, but not how you want it to be spoken about. Or maybe before you come out and speak, go back to the senior people of knowledge and ask them, should you come out and talk? You see, because they cause more harm than good. More harm than good. People are going to make mistakes. People are going to fall into error. The Muslim hastens to rectify their affairs and is concerned with the affairs of the Ummah. However, not everyone should be a spokesperson. Not everyone should be a spokesperson. And sometimes we give too much attention to these fame seekers. The issue is not with us, it's with them. They have problems. They have low self-esteem. They are seeking affirmation. They are seeking praise. They are the ones seeking attention. We can't give it to them. We cannot give it to them. You see, we have to try and imitate the way of the Salaf. You know, any time controversial issues occurred, they would go back to the seniors of them to speak about it. They wouldn't haste and talk. They'll go back to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This is what's happened. Or you hear of Abu Musa al-Ashari radiallahu anhu going back to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu and speaking to him prior to having something to say. But these are from the fitan of social media. Everyone's famous, everyone's a spokesperson. Wallahu al-musta'an. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ وَحُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Yani, this wow is atf, so it's carrying on the ruling. وَحُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ الْمُحْصَنَاتُ. المحصنات من النساء هن المتزوجات. They are the women who are married. So the women who are married are also prohibited, as we know, at the ma'lum bid-durura. See, that's something that's known by necessity. Now, إلا ما ملكت أيمانكم, except that which your right hand possesses, يعني al-ima, the slave girls. Now, فإنه يحل لكم وطئهن بعد الاستبراء. Yani they are the ones that you're allowed to have intercourse with, as long as if they're from the ones who are shared in possession, that is clear that they're not pregnant. That they are not pregnant. So if someone else has had intimacy with that servant girl, it's not permissible to have intimacy with them until it's known that they are pure. These details are Allah musta'an. We just mentioned it for tafsir. As for the waqi', alhamdulillah, we don't have it. No, but namurru murar al-kiram, inshallah. There are things that obviously you have to be very cautious in talking about. Allah musta'an. They'll come for you. You know what they do? You can have a whole hour lecture, they take that 30 seconds, all out of context. Allah musta'an. We're in a dangerous time, wallah, in a dangerous time. And the feminists and all the likes. What can we do? يعني كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فاصبروا حتى تلاقوني عند الحوض. Be patient until you meet me at the fountain. No. But هذا شرع Allah. This is what Allah has legislated. We believe in it. Because they say there was a time that it came again, that slavery was a thing again. Then the rules would apply. You see, so one is aware of it. In some places they may still practice it. It's not publicized. Wallahu a'lam. Now, then Allah mentions وَالْمُحْسَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ كتاب الله عليكم وحل لكم ما وراء ذلكم أن تبتغوا بأموالكم محسنين غير مسافحين فما استمتعتم به منهن فآتوهن أجورهن فريضة ولا جناح عليكم فيما تراضيتم به من بعد الفريضة إن الله كان عليما حكيما. يعني هذا ما كتب الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala هو الذي كتب هذا علينا. Allah has decreed this upon us. Now, and lawful to you also are others that are not mentioned. So other than the ones that have been mentioned, they are lawful to you. And that also shows a تيسير في الشرع. يعني المحرمات واضحة. وما لم يحرم في الأصل أنه يعني مباح إذا كان من المعاملات وغير العبادات. If it's from worldly affairs, not from acts of worship, إذا لم يحرمه الشرع فهو مباح. نعم. أو قد يكون مكروه. If it's something that has not been clearly prohibited, then it's something that is permissible, or it may be something that is disliked. إذا دل عليه قرينة, if something was evident of that. Allah mentions that it's permissible that you seek them in marriage with the muhur, the gifts from that which you own. Why? Seeking chastity, not unlawful intercourse. You're not seeking what? Zina. You're seeking to safeguard yourself with az-zawaj. So for whatever you enjoy of marriage from them, give them their due compensation. Yani muhuruhun, give them their due dowry, their due bridal gifts. Naam. Of the things that is mentioned, هذه الآيات في المتعة. That is, ayat are speaking about the temporary marriage. نعم. وهذه الآية منسوخة بنهي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن المتعة. This was abrogated with the prohibition of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم to practice al-mut'ah. And a person said, for example, we'll marry for 5 days, or we'll marry for 6 months. فهو يعني قصد الزواج بمدة معينة محددة. The person seeks to get married for an appointed time frame. هذا لا يحل. يعني الأصل إذا طلب الزواج أن يكون الزواج للبقاء. If a person seeks marriage, then it is to be done with the intention that is to remain, to continue. Now, but as for the short-term marriages, ونسأل السلامة والعافية, هذا ما يطبقها الرافضة والشيعة. This is of the things that the Shia they practice. ما أنه حرام. هذا شيء محرم. نعم. يعني there's no blame upon you in that which you have agreed. يعني here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ولا جناح عليكم فيما تراضيتم به من بعد الفريضة. يعني there is no blame upon you in the mutual agreements that you have. For example, a person may have an agreement with marriage that they're only going to stay a certain amount of time or whatever suits their situation. An agreement that is between them. ليس لأحد خارج هؤلاء التدخل في هذا. This is no one else's concern. Now, sometimes people hear of a person's situation, Allahul Musta'an, they come and say, how can you do this? How is this fair? And they may see that the man is maybe an oppressor in the situation. But then when you come and speak to the woman, she said, that's what I wanted. So why is this person getting involved? It has nothing to do with them. Whatever agreement the husband and wife have, that's what they've agreed. If they are pleased with it and she hasn't been compelled or forced, فَهَذَا لَيْسَ لِأَحَدٍ تَدَخُلْ فِيهِ. No one else has any interference or involvement in this. And this is another problem we have today. People, they like to get involved in creating a problem, but they're never a part of the solution. They may observe a situation and have so much to say, and they cause a major problem between the husband and the wife. As for being a part of the solution, where's those same individuals? Where are they? Where are the same people? Example, when it comes to the ex-wife stopping the father from seeing the children. How many times the parents, they have something to say about upbringing of the children. But then when they're divorced now, and it comes to seeing the children, the parents say, it's nothing to do with me. What do you mean it's nothing to do with you? هو عليك, يعني it is to do with you. هذا صلة الرحم. أين الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر? Where's the command and the good, the forbidding the evil? It is upon you. You do have a duty. I've had cases, I'm contacting the mom, the grandfather, telling me it's nothing to do with me. No, it is to do with you. But they don't realize. سيأتي يوم والولد إذا عرف اعترف الحقيقة سيبغض أمه ومن ساعدها أشد البغض. There will come a time when the child comes to realize the reality, they will hate the parents who prevented the child from having a relationship with the father. And this is a major problem we have today. No? And people have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have the Sharia, but they want to go to the judicial system of the kuffar when it comes to matters of the children. They don't want to respect the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They won't go and sit with people of knowledge and rectify their affair. And they take their personal issue and offload it on the children. Let the child be a child. The mother, the father should never say anything evil of the ex-husband or wife to the child. It's got nothing to do with the child. The child is innocent. The child is to have a relationship with the mother, a relationship with the father. Khalas. Neither party should be given their evil 2 pence to the child. Leave the child to be a what? A child. But today, do we have this? La. They'll rather wait 6 months for one court appointment. No contact with the child. No contact with the child. You know how much trauma this actually brings the child? The child actually longs to see the father. They might have supervised visit for 3 hours. then the child has to watch their father walk away. And they want the father to stay. They want to spend a bit more time. Do you know how much trauma this is on the child? Even the kuffar, the disbelievers, are speaking on this and saying from their research they have found causes of mental health in young men, young boys, is the fact they've had an absent relationship with the father. It causes an imbalance in their hormones, in their mental state. But then you ask the sister, why are you not letting the father? He did this to me. Okay, that's between you and him. What's the child's dhanb? What's the child's wrongdoing? What has the child done to be prohibited from seeing the father? Oh, he doesn't spend. So what if he doesn't spend? He wants to spend time with the child. As for an-nafaqa, Allah yuhasibuhu. If he's not giving you money, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to hold him to account. But if he wants to spend time, don't prohibit that. لا تكن عامل للشيطان. Don't become someone who works for shaitan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala amara bisilat al-rahim. Allah has commanded us to maintain family ties. But too many times we are witnessing women who are divorced preventing the father from seeing the child. And bitter men who are divorced, they go around speaking evil of the ex-wife in the community. All of this should be stopped. All of this has no place in the Sharia. These are signs of weakness. And women who encourage others to prevent the father for the ex-wife to stop the father from seeing the children, they are also min shayateen al-ins. The only time is justified that the father cannot have a relationship with the child is if there's fear of harm. Not speculated, an actual fear of harm based on evidence. Now she's saying, oh, I want to work on myself. Work on yourself. Let the father take the children for the weekend. You got 72 hours to work on yourself, to enjoy yourself. But then what happens? Another pattern. They wait till the child becomes badly behaved because of that imbalance. So now they can't control the child. So what happens? Now they call the father, I need you in the child's life. Not to spend time, to discipline. This is not correct. No, but we ask her to rectify our affairs and to make us of those who return back to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when we have these differences. But it's affecting our communities. Affecting our communities. Ex-spouses, stop speaking evil about your exes to your children. It's got nothing to do with the children. Let the children be children. Let the children be children. And then you'll see, inshallah, because Allah musta'an, can you imagine, this is when you see the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, تَلِدُ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا. From the signs of the hereafter, the girl will give birth to her master. Of the things that is mentioned in the explanation of this, the children will lose respect for their parents. And they will speak to their parents as if they're their slaves. You hear children beating up their parents now, raising their hands to their parents, using profanity to their parents. كيف وصلنا إلى هذا? How did we reach this level? You see? But sometimes the children, they witness their parents speaking evil about the other parent. هذا ليس فيه خير. There's no good in this. No. And sometimes when you need to have an amicable relationship for the betterment of the child, you're not able to have it because of these personal differences. Allah, qadar Allah ma sha fa'al. You are now separated. That's what it is. You have to come to a place of acceptance. Unless there is dhulm, wa tughyan, then there's exceptions. But the general rule is silat al-rahim. Is that one is to maintain family ties until there's a justified reason to not do so. I've known people that have mentally gone ill, become drug addicts because they haven't been able to see their children. Someone who their first child, that's the light of their heart. They're prohibited from that relationship. They cannot bear it mentally. And these are people that are not Muslim. Sometimes Muslims, they go to drugs, intoxicants. Why? To release their mind from thinking about it. Then what happens? They are not even able to be a father, even if they wanted to. Even if they wanted to, they've become an alcoholic, a drug addict. They're not able to be a father anymore. And maybe the one who has prevented them from having that relationship is going to be what? Blameworthy. So when we ponder on these rules that have been legislated regarding those who can marry, those who cannot marry, all of this has been silat al-rahim. This is from the ways that Allah has legislated to maintain family ties. We will stop there inshallah ta'ala, and we'll continue next week from ayah 25 inshallah ta'ala. But again, there are some rules that were legislated and they were specific to practices that are not longer upheld, but the ruling remains. Because if that practice was to come back around, the ruling would be the same. وَهَذِي الْأَحْكَامِ تَصْلُحْ لِكُلِّ مَكَانٍ وَزَمَانٍ. And these rulings are suitable for every time and place. And from the ways of kufr is that a person says the Quran and the Sunnah is not for our time now. We're not to act upon it. This is for the time of the companions. هذا باطل. نسأل الله السلامة والعافية. That's how to rectify our affairs. And we mentioned contemporary issues for a reason, because these are the things that we are suffering with. And a Muslim is to be concerned with the current affairs. And you have even some of Ahl al-Ilm, people of knowledge, unfortunately, they fall into this matter where they tell people don't get involved in certain issues, don't be concerned with certain issues. And someone messaged me about it yesterday saying, but this one's speaking bad about this scholar, that scholar. Listen, everyone makes a mistake and people get things right. But in current affairs, there are matters where scholars, they have to speak about it. People of knowledge have to speak about it. So don't criticize them. If you don't agree, or if you are not going to say anything, then you remain silent. You teach what you're going to teach, fiqh of worship and the likes, no problem. But don't criticize those who are speaking with knowledge about current affairs, especially the affairs of Palestine and Sudan and those that are similar to them. These are the affairs that the Muslim is to be concerned with. The Muslim wants good for the ummah. المسلمون كالبنيان يشد بعضهم بعضا أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. We're like a building, we support each other. So a part of the ma'na of this hadith is that we are concerned with the affairs that affect us. We are concerned with the matters that are affecting us. And from those matters is one, fathers not being to see their children. This is happening way too much in Muslim communities. Way too much that the fathers are being prevented from seeing the children. There is no excuse unless there's a fear of injustice or dhulm. You see, there has to be a general justification for that. And there are situations where the father is to be prevented from seeing the child as they will cause harm to the child. But we need to rectify our affairs. Silat al-Rahim is of the things that Allah has commanded upon us. And it's of the major sins to not uphold the family ties. ونسأل السلام والعافية والتوفيق لما يحبه ويرضاه. اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا وحبيب محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.